What's going on? It's been a few days or so. We back though. Um, Hope everybody had a good weekend, man. It's early Sunday evening. It will be Sunday evening by the time this get loaded up. Y'all know how long this stuff take. But yeah, hope everybody had a good weekend, man. We're gonna touch on something that's not abnormal for me. You know, we try to be well-rounded and diverse over here. I just don't think y'all pay enough attention to the diversity, man. It's like y'all stuck in one lane. You know what I mean? Y'all need to walk with me all the way, though. But first time here, like, share, subscribe, comment. You know the drill. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we're going to cover everything over here. It's real rap. You know? It's bigger than me. But I don't got asked this question a few times, right? In person. You know, what was my thoughts on the Russian-Ukraine situation, right? And, you know, initially I just kept dismissing it like, you know, it was us again, minding somebody's business. But I had to dig deeper. Like, for some reason, it stayed on my mind. People keep asking me this question, like, you know, it must be a reason. It must be something I'm supposed to touch on. It must be something I'm supposed to go deep on. And not just surface level, right? Surface level is like we just minding somebody's business, right? But it's a lot of things that I forgot because a lot of stuff that I data dump, right? The Russian-Ukraine situation is very real. It's very intense. And if Russia was allowed to invade Ukraine with no consequences, right? Like, Russia can run right through Ukraine. Let's not get this misunderstood, right? What it effectively does is it destabilizes Europe. It will be the beginning of the destabilization of Europe. So it would take you back to the Cold War era. You know what I mean? All the progress that was made with trying as much as possible to unite Europe, it would be a bad deal. Now, the history of Russia-Ukraine is pretty ill, right? Right? It's actually pretty ill. So when Ukraine was made a part of Russia, right? Wasn't that long ago. But actually it was a long time ago. Was made a part of Russia. My apologies. John Stalin in the 40s, right? He pretty much gave Ukraine the independence. It was a catch though. Right, in a sense, I mean, it was still under Russian control, right? I think Ukraine didn't officially break away from Russia until, you know, it was no more USSR, right? When the whole Soviet Union thing collapsed, right? Ukraine pretty much broke out on their own, did their own thing, whatever the case may be. But the history within Ukraine itself, so the reason why I was confusion is this. This is the part that I find ill. In the 1940s, right? John Stalin pretty much he starved eastern Ukraine. So it'd be western part of Russia, the border. You know, they bordered them from the west, right? So eastern Ukraine was pretty much starved out, famine and all that, like a lot of casualties, right? Stalin then implanted Russians into that region, right? So Ukraine has pretty much been divided east and west since then, because as you can imagine, the the eastern side of Ukraine is really Russian. Right? So Western Ukraine is pretty much it's westernized for all intents and purposes. It does it's way more involved with other Europe neighbors and comrades, and they also want to be a part of NATO. Now this is where it gets tricky at. Like, you got to pay attention. So the eastern side of Ukraine is pretty much where all the rebels are that opposes the Ukrainian government and sides with Putin, right? Because of reasons I just said, right? Now, Western Ukraine sides with the rest of Europe, right? NATO and all that good fancy stuff. So if you look at where Ukraine sits, it borders Russia quite naturally, right? So you already got like a couple of smaller countries to the north, like they real small, that are NATO forces, right? They part of the NATO treaty, right? Now you got Poland, Romania, Hungary, and all that stuff right there. That's also a part of NATO, right? But what blocks them is Ukraine. You got the Black Sea to the south, right? You got Crimea to the southeast, right? Which is nothing but, they pretty much took that back from Ukraine. They ain't nothing but baby Russia, right? So you look at it from Putin. I mean, let's get one thing clear about Putin. Let's get one thing clear. Y'all may think he a maniac. Y'all may think he's a tyrant. But what you're not gonna say is that man is dumb by a long shot. So from a military strategy standpoint, Ukraine is very vital for Russia and NATO. Russia can't allow NATO to get Ukraine from a strategic standpoint, because they can already enter Russia to the northwest of Russia, because I think Latvia and this is another country I'm forgetting, like Slovakia, Slovenia, like something like that. It's another country I'm forgetting about in that northwest part of the Russian border. But a big bulk of that will be Ukraine. Like, you'll have so many different points of entry if there was to be, an escalation in the future. And there'll be another chess move for NATO to begin to more and more unite Europe, right? So from Russia's standpoint, they probably looking like, oh damn, they clipping up to come get me. Like they getting Ukraine and all that good. Like, no, you can't allow that to happen. So it's almost like he forcing their hand to come to the table to say, listen, I'll stand down, but what's not going to happen is Ukraine joining NATO. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, I think that's what it's about with him, because there's really no other. Like, Ukraine offers Russia nothing else. That's why they didn't really riff about when everything, the dissolution of Russia, of the USSR, right? Soviet Union, whatever. But no, so like I said, Russia has the capability, if there's no intercepting with them invading Ukraine, because they have the ability, because of their sheer size. Like, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? Their sheer size and their location, right? That makes Russia a tough out. Geographically, you can't be set up no better than Russia, geographically. And then when you figure out how close Moscow is to Ukraine, and you know what I'm saying? Like, once again, that would be something that they can just let go. So they got Crimea, they got the Black Sea. You know, they have some natural barriers, but if they get Ukraine, that'll be another domino that fell off the board. It'll be everything but Belarus, I think how you say that country. You know, that'll be the last piece that needs to fall. That'll be the last country that needs to fall. And if they fail, if Ukraine signs the NATO treaty, joins that, then Belarus probably will be next. And that's the last piece. Everything to the west, the western side of Russia, will be NATO members. So I get it. You know what I mean? I get it. And Russia would never join NATO because one of the biggest, like people say, we still got the superpowers. U.S. is a superpower. Russia's a superpower, no doubt. China, you still got these superpowers out there. But one of the powers of Russia is the mystique of the Kremlin, right? You don't really have the slightest idea, like, to a T of what they're doing. You know what I mean? You can guesstimate, you can look at satellite images, and you can have, people with inside that's leaking information. You know what I'm saying? But if they join NATO, the world, especially America, will have a lot better idea of Kremlin's capabilities, right? And that's one of their powers, is you're guesstimating what they're capable of doing. You don't really have a solid pinpoint idea of what they're doing. So, like I said, it's one of them things where I don't never see NATO. I don't never see Russia doing it. Like, I don't never see Russia doing that. It's like 20 countries right now, 25 countries that's a part of, European countries that's a part of NATO. But I don't never see Russia doing that. Ever. That's just me. I don't never see that happen. But with that, there's other things you got to consider. The reason why it impacts the world. I mean, any conflict that Russia engages in, especially if NATO gets involved, and America by default has to get involved because it's a NATO, part of, probably the chair member of NATO, for real. Let's not get it twisted, right? You think goods and commerce and things like that are up now in price. It's going to increase exponentially. You can bet that. If you can't bet nothing else, you can bet any conflict with Russia, you will see prices increase even more than what you already think you do. You know what I mean? Because you gotta look at the region. That's coming out of that region, right? So, it's like 70% of the world's commerce travels through water. Just do that math. I don't think I gotta explain that all in detail. You know what I mean? I don't think I gotta explain all that in detail. So when you look at it like that, and you start analyzing it from a economic standpoint, and then the world trying to globally recover from the financial impact of COVID, or whatever that was, I don't know if the world is financially prepared for any setbacks of that nature, where commerce becomes even more disrupted than what it is. Things become even more pricey than what it is. It becomes even more scarce than what it is, because you think stuff is taking a long time now to travel, to go from point A to point B. It's going to go up even more then, right? And like I said, I don't think the world is ready for that global economic impact of that as well. You know what I mean? You probably can see gas prices. I mean, I have to pay for premium. So those that have to pay for premium, you can see gas prices in parts of this country getting up to $6, $6.50 or higher. We ain't ready for that. You know what I'm saying? Ain't ready for that. So I don't know if Putin is pump faking. I don't know if he's just trying to get the world to bend to his cause or force the world's hand. But I don't put nothing past the guy. You know what I mean? He's a smart guy. I don't think he gets enough credit for the intelligence factor. And I don't really think he cares, man. I'm gonna keep it a stack. Like, it's people out there, like, I think he one of them dudes that if he gotta push that button, he gonna push that button, man. There's gonna be all kinds of people on underground shelters ducking radiation. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really think that he don't care. So now him and Trump would have been the ultimate standoff. You know what I'm saying? That would have been ill to see. Like, I think Trump would push the button too. I ain't gonna hold you, but yeah, man, just pay attention because this actually is important. Even within America, this is important. You know what I mean? I didn't give it enough respect. It's so much other stuff in my mind, I just was brushing it off. But when I started back and analyzing and doing the math, it was like, no, this is important. And this could get scary for the world as a whole. But hope y'all liked the video, man. Give me some feedback on this. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Let's switch this up, man. Like, we ain't always got to stay on some street stuff, some music stuff. Like, there's a whole lot of stuff going on in this world, man, and we need to be abreast with. I don't care if you in the hood, you in the suburb, you in the mountains, you in the farmland. It really don't matter because it's stuff that impacts you as well. You know what I'm saying? But we all got to be abreast and make sure we stay on these things that we consider not important that actually are important, because we're conditioned only to believe certain things are important. That's why a lot of stuff go above our head and we ain't paying attention. You know what I'm saying? We can't dissect what we're seeing accordingly because our mind was conditioned to be on another kind of time. You know what I mean? But yeah, like I said, like, share, subscribe, comment, man. You already know. Y'all see this tonight.